You know,
I invited other people to show up here. We'll see. We'll see. My networks are really small, so and I never count on anybody.
I'd never count on anybody either. Oh, it is interesting, and I thank you because you have shown up every well, not every single time, but you have often shown up, and every time that no one else showed up, you did. So,
Yeah, that's my mantra. If no one else is going to show up, I fill the vacuum.
hey Chris, hey gang,
Hey,
how's Monday going?
It's all right. Slow Monday.
Yep. Haven't seen you in a while, Yang. How are things going? He looks heads down. Maybe he doesn't hear.
Yeah.
I think he definitely isn't hearing us yet. That's all right. He'll notice at some point. Um,
Did that or he's amazingly stoic.
aha, there he is. Audio isn't working for me.
are tariffs legal? Are they not legal? I'm not sure.
I don't know. I think nothing's legal and everything's legal. Jim, Michael, welcome.
Nice to be here.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I see some new faces. So, what brings you guys here?
I'll share. I recently left my role as chief product officer at one company to start up a consulting company myself with a former colleague. And one of the services, fractional executive leadership. And I've never done fractional anything. So I saw you somewhere, read your website, and saw this was coming up. I believe the last one. So I figured might as well act while there's time.
Yeah, get in. Awesome. That's I'll have some questions for you. Jim, what about you?
Well, this is actually my second time, but my first one was like 8 weeks ago or 9 weeks
Okay.
ago.
Yeah. Sorry, if
Uh,
I lose faces, I lose faces, you know.
well, it's like my face appeared once, so you're off the hook. But I've had client meetings all these weeks, so this is the first time I haven't. So I'm back.
Any progress? Any I mean client meetings is good.
Yeah, well, uh, I'm about to sign my second. The one client I've had all summer has paid the bills, so all's well. So not too bad.
That's good. That's good.
Mhm.
Um Chris, anything new on yours or you still kind of
Um, well, I was, talked with my friend who's, the founder of the company, whatever. Kind of went back with more of like, it doesn't seem like it's the right fit for me as far as like a full time role. So
Okay.
trying off to like, consulting and a monthly retainer kind of thing. Now it's kind of balls back in their court to kind of decide, how many hours, how much they, and at what rate and how much, equity and things if, throw that in. So still kind of up in the air. It's, sort of annoyingly vague. Would like to get it locked down and so that I can like plan the next steps. But, you know,
right.
it is.
This is why I like to send proposals instead of letting them put numbers on paper. I say, this is what I'm offering you. Take and I, give a menu of 3 things generally, but like these are your choices. If you don't like any of these, tell me why you don't. But
Yeah.
then they get price, they get scope. It's all right there in front of them. They get to pick.
Yeah. It's just like it's a friend. So, you try not to be overly formal and kind of, but it's like, nah, it's getting like, come on, guy. like,
I've given up on that thinking that you shouldn't be overly formal, and it only needs to be so formal. Mine are only so formal. I mean, I have a structured proposal, but um, that's kind of as formal as it gets. And I have a pretty consistent pattern around that I derived from Jonathan Stark's proposal format. But that really saves them thinking about it too, right? Because they're going hemming and hawing and having conversations instead of just saying, "Well, we can pick off a menu." And even for friends, that's still better. Yang, can you hear us now? All right. You can hear us, but we can't hear you. I can't hear you. Nope.
That Jonathan Stark's proposal format?
Yeah, if you search for Jonathan Stark Bigco proposal, you'll find either his lead page or you'll find a copy of the PDF.
Is it Jonathan Starks, Starks?
No,
Or do you
no
mean-
trailing S, just Stark.
Oh, okay, got it.
It's it follows. Let's see. I think Blair Ennis. I should know how to say his name. Also, kind of uses a similar structure. He's been doing this maybe longer than the rest, but it's part of the why conversation. It's part of a larger piece. But if you just look at it as a proposal and say, look, this is 3 things that I'm offering you. There are 3 different price points. It gives me the option to establish price instead of talking about cost. Because hourly is cost. It's your cost. And if you sell at cost, that's a problem. But you can still use the 3 things proposal with hourly rates. However you want to price. And if that's at cost, if that's at hourly, whatever, but it allows them to choose scope, ideally scope and price. So if you say, okay, well, what a boring format would be, and completely still not exciting is, well, I can give you 5 hours a week or I can give you 50 hours a week. Which one do you want? That's still a menu choice, right? And you say, I have availability for 50, or I have an availability for 4, I have availability for 15. Here are your options. But at that point, you're still just selling time, and time isn't what they're buying. When you can think about it as talking about the thing that they need. So this is why I love to record my client conversation, record my lead conversations, and I can take my transcripts and feed them back into ChatGPT, feed them into some tool. Welcome back, Jim. And we can use those to I can use them. And before ChatGPT, we could do this with a recording or reading the transcript myself, or you can try to do it from memory to figure out what it is that was important to them about bringing you in, which means asking them that question, right? This is where the why conversation is. Why bring someone in expensive in? Like, why spend $1 million with someone like me when you could build a team and do this in-house, or hire somebody full-time? Or you ask why. Why is this important to you? Why not do this? You've been kicking this can down the road for a couple of years. Why not kick it down the can to next year? Why is now important? There's lots of those pieces of why. If you can drill into why, it starts to let you focus in on those in your proposal. So now you can answer to those whys. They say, well, we want to do this year because my brother, why is he trying to buy a new EV right now? Well, because the tax incentives are going away. And so he's in a market with everyone else who's trying to buy, well, a used one, but to replace, he's like, well, my last one, he's had it since, I guess he went and got it in 2020. So, he got in the metal can and flew there in 2020, flew to California to drive it back to Florida. And, but why is because he's got something important that says, this is when I should do it now. I can save a lot of money if I do it now. Your client has some motivator. So when you start to break this out into 3 different structures, you can lean into some of the things they talk about why it's important that they do this. And so you can, if your highest priced option, you can say, well, timing was really important to you. You want to get this done now. We can guarantee we'll get this done in 30 days, whatever it is, whatever it takes. And you put in an unlimited amount of time. That's how much time you can put in 30 days. It's still limited. And you charge to the moon for it. I mean, these are big, round examples, but versus, well, despite the fact that you say time is really important, but if you really can't spend that much money, here are some other options. Here's what we can do for you in 60 days. Here's how we can affect some piece of this in 60 days or whatever. And having those conversations really helps to do that. So anyway, I'm too far down that rabbit hole. Michael, you said you're just kicking this off. Have you ever had a business at all, run any kind of business?
I've not. I've always been in the corporate world and decided let's try something on my own.
Were you ever involved in the P&L side of the business?
Yes, but at companies that didn't really treat them very formally. I was fortunate or unfortunate to work at companies that had nearly unlimited budgets, so our P&Ls were kind of a joke always.
I hear you. So you're in the technical space, right? Like kind of fractional CTO type space is where you're thinking?
Fractional CTO, CPO, and COO, potentially in various places. I've started as a business leader, a sales leader, and I moved into the technical space about a decade ago.
Okay.
So
you kind of bring that CXO vibe to it in that
yeah,
kind of manage business operations, manage technical operations. Both.
Yeah, I'm not the type of leader that does code reviews, which I know is probably folks on this call are probably shuddering to think about that. Just not been my specialty. But I've happened to find a little niche. In the spaces that I've been in.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so one of the biggest things I always point out as people are starting off is this is a business. This is not a job. I mean, there is a job inside the business, but you are building and running a business at this point. And that's a very scary thing for a lot of people who haven't ever done it. It is a business where you are the product. So put your CPO hat on and think of you as a product. What would you do? What can you do? What can you make this thing do that is you? What can you make it do that's valuable to your client, to your buyer? And this is a challenge. Then figure out. I mean, have you thought about who you solve problems for? What kind of problems you solve?
Yes, okay. I have. I did this with a partner. It's actually so. We don't have to go deep into my story here, but so I was the head of engineering for a year and a half at a very large company. My specialty was in Salesforce, building that up. Realized, we need some more technical, so I brought in a CTO and I moved into chief product officer, leading all product, where previously I led product and engineering, which made sense. However, the new CTO was like, I don't like any of his people, got rid of all my people. One of those people, my head of engineering that reported to me, left, started a consulting company. I've now joined her, and we've got a plan where once certain milestones are hit, then it becomes our company together. Okay. So our niche is Salesforce implementation, Salesforce contract renewals, enhancements, etc., as well as fractional leadership, which I expect it to be kind of like a little bonus add-on that we'd get to in the future. I made my initial post, and someone reached out to me that I worked with years ago, and tried to bring me on. It seemed like too good to be true, and that was another reason, the impetus for me to join this call. I don't even know what that means. I told him I can do 5 hours a week at X rates, and he's almost ready to say yes, which seems like almost dangerous on his part without going deeper on it. But
what's his risk if he pays you 5 hours and hates you?
True. So hoping to hear from what you guys have been doing for historically and things I can learn to improve for the future, because I'm probably not going to be so lucky to find people that just say, hey, we work together, come join.
I mean, honestly, if for people who are just starting out, your best option, your best way you find clients is through your existing network, the people you've worked with, people you stayed in some loose amount of contact with, and you say, I'm doing fractional. Is there something I can help you with? If people raise their hands and say yes, that's a really good sign for you. If they don't, you have a much harder road. Just remember that eventually runs out. So you still have to think about investing in the marketing aspect of your business. Figuring out what your product is, what you sell. Don't let one client take all of your resources. I mean, if you're saying 5 hours, that's great, right? You have step that down very narrowly into basically an advisor space at that level.
It was interesting. That's exactly where the conversation led to. The guy initially, he was like, "You just want to be our full-time CTO?" And I'm like, I'm just starting this business. I can't just pivot away. I need to start with 5 hours, and we can then grow it up to 10, 20 more over time, as appropriate.
That's good. That's a really good place to start. You might consider that you don't need to charge hours for it, and you don't need to track hours for it, and that you can scope that differently. Maybe it's you say, well, we'll have 2 or 3 conversations a week, and that's 5 hours, and plus the time that you'll spend in the in-between to come up with answers to whatever questions are happening or whatever. Maybe you stay engaged in Slack or something like that. And now this becomes a retainer instead of an hourly engagement. And so now they're paying you, I don't know, $250 an hour. Instead of paying you $250 an hour, they're paying you, and you just do the simple mental model of 5 times 4 times, $250 or whatever. And now this is my base price for that engagement.
I'm curious so that price thing was something that I had to think quickly on, and I just took my old salary, divided it by per hour, and came up with 5 hours. And I don't know what I've never done this before. Is
So
that
you've given him a price at this point,
I have given a price,
and it's okay. This is
in fact,
you were happy.
I went super aggressive. I gave a price that felt kind of high,
right?
And I said 1% equity, and I knew I was just flying over a 2-year ramp up or vesting period.
Yeah.
And we had our call after. He's like, "We're not doing the percentage for 5 hours a week, but maybe in the future, but your hourly seems fine." So
yeah.
So
which probably means you didn't charge enough.
Probably.
It almost always means that you didn't charge enough.
Yeah.
That's something I've experienced too. But the client that I signed earlier this year and the one that said yes, and we just have to get the contract together. I actually charged, I'm doing a flat retainer, but I charged twice what I made in my last full-time job. And both of them said, "Yeah, that's great." Well, that's a signal.
Yes. You want them to say no.
Yeah.
Which is the trick. We were talking about the three things proposal. That's the trick of that is you think, well, I need to make this, and I think that's my reasonable. And you put, or maybe that's your bottom, and you're like, 5 hours is my minimum, and I'm going to do this, and it's 5 times 250, and here's my number. But on the high end of that, you give them something a little bit more, some piece of FOMO, and you charge 5 times that. Even if the scope is almost the same, but there's a little something extra, right? And maybe they don't bite at it, but they don't have to. It sets a price anchor and makes them feel, "Oh my God, I'm getting just the thing I needed for cheap." And or they take the middle tier that's just something different. Maybe it's 10 hours and it's not really any different, but it locks them in. These are really hard to do when you're just selling hours, because hours is hours is hours. They're undifferentiated time. When you can come up with structures for retainers, it's a little lot easier to change your pricing and put 3. You can put 3 things on there that are basically almost the same with different prices and see which one they bite at, because they're going to think this one's at 5 times the cost. It must be 5 times the value. Value is always in their mind.
The first client that I signed this year, their standard contract had me, even though they were paying me a retainer per month, they wanted me to track hours and all this other nonsense. And it's like, you're not buying my time, you're buying my value. So I redlined it out, and they took it in the end. But holy cow, because I made a mistake, I don't know, 5 years ago. In between gigs, I picked up some consulting, and I charged by the hour, and then I had to track my time.
Yes.
Good Lord.
Yeah. I used to keep, so I had a client that I hadn't tracked time for years ago, and I kept track of how much time I had to invest into tracking time for them, because they wanted me to then before I invoiced it, I had to allocate my time into different buckets, and they had these defined buckets that they wanted me to put them in. How much time did I spend on a database? How much did I time supporting front end engineers? How much time did I do this? And I'm like,
oh, good Lord.
Right. And I would spend on average about 3 hours a month tracking my time.
Which you should have charged them at a usurious rate.
because of course I also had to put time in every ticket, right? Every Jira ticket that I was working on, everything I did had to have a ticket. So I had to go back through and allocate time to tickets, and I would keep track in my just a loose text file. And then I'd go through at the end of the month and start assigning things back into the Jira tickets. And then I'd take those tickets and put them into those buckets. And it was just this, I spent 3 hours a week. They paid me $300 a month to track time.
Goodness.
Because I made sure that time got tracked.
Yeah.
But if you're happy with it, this is what I always say. If you're happy with the price you gave for now, you're good. And because it's small and it's an intro, right? Everybody knows this is the starter. You've got an option to change this up going forward, right? You can restructure. You may not be able to change the cost that you're selling at, but you can at least consider changing the structure. If you come back and say, hey, we really decided we want 10, 15 hours a month, and you restructure it and the number still kind of adds up in their mind, then you give it to them and keep going and you're good. But and maybe you can get off the tracking time thing sooner than being stuck in it if you choose.
Makes sense.
What other problems and do you see, questions do you have? You've got a partner in this, right? So you said you're working on this new business venture together.
Yes. I have a partner. She is the technical side of things, and I'm kind of leading the sales essentially side of things, generating enough new business so that we can support not only her, but we've got a pretty large network of folks that we've worked with over the years that are pinging us trying to join up, but I don't have the hours to give to folks.
Right. So this does tend to drift very fast into an agency model. Is that something you want to do? Is grow being an agency, or do you want to stay solo-ish?
No, we've discussed we want to eventually turn into an agency of some type, potentially staff augmentation or project based. Still kind of figuring out what is our go-to-market strategy and how does that look like in the future. But we know we want to grow. We know we've got a lot of folks that we've really enjoyed working with over many years and want to join with us. So what does that look like?
There's an alternative to growth that's increasing revenue without increasing time and increasing people. And so we often we come from the rest of the business world and where we have to sell more product in order to get more revenue, not recognizing that there's another way to get more revenue, and that's increase your price, increase your desirability, and increase your price. Mm-hmm. And it's entirely possible to build $1 million a year revenue business with one person in this space. It's if you have the ability to sell, if you have the network that will work with you, if you have the ability to place yourself correctly in the market, get into a space where someone recognizes you as the expert. These are all paths that you work on. As soon as you start bringing other people in, past like you and a partner, you and a couple of partners, that you are still the product and you're just kind of reinforcing each other. When you start bringing in, say, developers, you're bringing a third-party contractor developer, you're doing staff log, or you're doing development projects, then your cut, your cut is tied to how much you can charge for them, and they are the undifferentiated engineer, right? They're the contract engineer. You can say, well, look, we're this good at managing them, but I'm still only ever getting 25 or 50% of whatever they're taking. And so in order to scale you have to scale them and you have to add more. And that management overhead starts to bite into your, into your revenue, into your profit. So it's things to consider. I see a lot of people fall into that because it looks like the easy habit and it's the thing that they know. They think they know it's grow a team to scale revenue, but it's entirely possible to do it and stay solo or stay small. Let someone else.
I had not thought about that.
Let someone else run a staff log company and you partner with them and say, hey, when my clients need it, I will suggest you, but I will make it clear that you're friends of mine.
That's interesting.
So many people that end up with agencies in the 5 to 10 people realm wish they had never left being soloist, because they immediately, their profit starts to go down, and even though the revenue goes up, the amount their profit goes down. How much they're taking home goes down until they have to get to like 10, 20 people to where they're finally able to bring home as much as they brought home as a soloist. Because you can charge $150 an hour, $250 an hour for you, but you can't charge that for somebody you bring in to fill your time or to fill in, even less. And when you start doing what a lot of people do, is pulling offshore, great, I'm billing them out at $40 an hour. Now I'm taking home $4 an hour from these guys. you know, things to consider.
Yeah.
With all the management overhead and headache.
Yes. And you're carrying the risk. If you, well, it depends. An agency I talked to on a project recently, well, they insisted they would not carry risk. If their client, who was a scrappy startup who was saying that they were underfunded and didn't have enough money to get this project done, if they chose not to pay that agency would not make sure I got paid. Now, you can take that approach, or you can take the other approach. I've worked with agencies who made sure I got paid, and it happened when they had a client pull out. They made sure I got every cent that I was contractually obligated to. Right? They said we're going to do this for 3 months, and they pulled out at month 2. I got paid for month 3. What they did in that case was they went back and fought and said, "Look, you have a contract with us. We will settle this contract if they pay out." Basically, they paid out enough that they weren't out of pocket to pay me. They didn't get profit out of that month, but they at least weren't out of pocket. That was an easy settle, right? But you've got to figure out that, and you got to figure out how you carry that risk, where you're paying all of these contractors from that you're growing with. Not to dissuade you. No, actually,
That was good. This is exactly the type of stuff that I'm glad we're talking about. These things that don't.
If it's not clear, I don't like the agency business model. So take that with a grain of salt. But here's the other view.
Especially when we have a client already that is saying they only do net 90.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah. Right.
It was the first client that we brought on, so we were willing to do it. It's just us, and we can go a while without making anything. But yeah, we've already decided that we will never do that again.
Except for agencies, and even agencies I've not always had this problem with. I ask for this is another advantage to not charging hourly. So my general packages were $5,000, $7,500, $15,000, $25,000, $30,000 a month. That was my general pricing tiers, right? And shifted and changed it and scoped, but that was paid up front. I don't start until I get paid. That first month is paid up front. I offer a 30-day, sometimes a 7 or 14, depending on like the size of the engagement and stuff. But I would offer especially on non-recurring stuff, like a discovery or a roadmap session is a 7-day guarantee and not a 30-day guarantee, because we only spent 7 days working on it.
Yeah.
But I always get paid up front, and I have very rarely had any pushback. One client I did have pushback early on, and we settled on they would pay me weekly with automation. It was weekly with automation. So I didn't have to send an invoice every week. They just cut a check with automation every week. They had, they just put it in their invoicing system and paid me. And that was a good compromise, right? So I was only ever out a week if they screwed it up. And I knew by Thursday if the payment wasn't coming through. And other than that, I've had very little pushback. on getting paid up from it because they know they need you. And they usually recognize when they don't is working for really big companies because we only do hourly, we only do this, we only do that, which means you have to come in and figure out how to present yourself as something unique. And a lot of times that might be, well, I'm coming in as an advisor. I'm not coming in as a contractor, or I'm coming in as a coach or a trainer. I'm running a workshop, right? They wouldn't pay for a workshop where you're flying people out in arrears. They're going to pay you up front because you've got costs, right? You got to secure the space, that type of thing. So you figure out you got to work. Sometimes you got to work with your contact, your hero, or you've got to work with their accounting team, their accounts payable team, and find somebody friendly and see what arrangement can work that doesn't leave you stuck as that contractor because you're not just a contractor at this point, right?
Nifty.
All right, I've been talking a lot, so you guys talk.
I've
Anybody want to know what I do?
What do you do?
I measure smoke, and I spent all weekend coding. This is my graph from this morning. I don't know if you guys can see it. Let me turn my camera up or something. So opacity is the law for smoke emissions, and I have the only device that'll measure smoke. So 20% is illegal, and I was able to keep my wood stove under 20%. I got new sensors and everything. I got a grant from the DOE. It's finishing up and working with 2 PhDs at the University of Berkeley. And I have to argue with these people on a regular basis. They're very sharp. I'm not. I just make the equipment. And they're working toward a peer review, and I have no input on it. I just made the device.
Oh.
So the device is, I don't know if you can see it. It's right here. It measures, it's a transmissometer, but measures, of course, no one knows what a transmissometer is. Transmissometer is used for airport visibility. So when you're landing a plane, they say, oh, we got 10 miles of visibility. That's calculated by a transmissometer that's sitting on the runway. And there's a company that makes those. They're very expensive. These things are very expensive for the airline industry because it's certified stuff and everybody depends on those readings. Right now, I'm trying to save wood stoves. And so all my products are retrofit. They go on the wood stoves. Now, it's not cold enough to need a wood stove right now, but I can tell you right now, all weekend, all I do is watch my box and it says, put more wood on the fire. I put more wood on the fire. It doesn't put out smoke and I'm baked out of the shop. But I got a PI license. I've been doing fire investigations for many years. I don't want to argue with people on fire investigations because they're all advocates, and I've done around 2,000 of them. I know. Any questions?
How'd you come into manufacturing? Is that what you're doing, manufacturing these devices?
Yeah, I went out and got a patent. I got one patent, and then ended up being 2 more patents. And go ahead.
You designed it and you're manufacturing it.
Yes.
I think Noel's other answer there is he's not sure how they're going to get manufactured. He's building the prototypes himself.
Yeah, I make prototypes.
Got
And
it.
I have 6 made. I got 3 down at the University of Berkeley. Now, the design, whenever you're building something, there's always a person steering that design. And Dr. Rapp at University of Berkeley was the one steering the design. She wanted sample every second. So I had to code it 996 milliseconds. That's close enough for me. But in reality, that's way too much data. That matches up with their data acquisition system. But in reality, do you ever need that type much data? I think once every 10 seconds is enough for like a regulatory body that needed it or a control system. or logging the data so you can say, no, my chimney was not smoking over the legal limit. Here's the data from it, time and date stamped. I want to make really big wood stoves. Right now, the limit on wood stoves is probably in the 20 kilowatt range. That doesn't mean anything to any.
Rosing up.
Yep. A little bit.
He needs more heat.
Yeah.
You were going to say something, Jim.
Must have been a lie. Forget.
Well, these have been fun. This is number 20, and so I've been doing this for 20 weeks, and it was fun. But I sort of realized that my coaching business was not going anywhere, and I needed to do something else. So that's kind of why today is the last one.
Okay.
Anybody wants to reach out, have a chat, ask questions, feel free. I will figure out what that looks like. Not that I'm kicking you out, I'm just talking.
Yeah.
But
Wonderful.
yeah, welcome back, Michael.
Makes sense. Your time is money, and it's hard to focus on all the things
Right.
that are important when you're trying to focus on all the things that may or may not be important.
Right. I'm trying to buy a business. So
Yeah.
Oh, congrats.
buy a business that's already profitable, get a loan, and let the profit pay for the loan, and still make some money. And that's what I'm trying to make happen. We'll see if it works.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Were you able to share what kind of business? Not the business, but what kind of business?
Specifically at the moment, I'm looking at a car dealership. Very
Neat.
specialty used car dealership.
Interesting. I did look at that before I started this. I looked at, should I open up a franchise?
Right.
And it seemed like the franchise fees, eat away at anything. And that idea still sounds very interesting. So I'd love to in the future hear about your journey and how you picked used car dealership versus something else.
Yeah. I was looking at shops, repair shops, and looking at aftermarket shops primarily and less than general repair, because falls into need versus want. General repair is need, and aftermarket, so the whole aftermarket, everything that is not general repair, basically the aftermarket. So window tint, sunroofs, leather interiors, upholstery, tire and wheel shops that are not just selling general tires. There's lots of stuff. Jeep lift kits, truck lift kits. So I started down that path, and I found a shop that was associated with a dealer. I talked to him about his shop, and then he was like, "My dealer might be for sale."
Wow. Do you have a background or special interest in cars then?
I do have an interest in cars. Cars would have been where I wound up if I didn't end up in tech.
Started on refrigerants.
What's that, Chris?
So don't get him started on auto refrigerants.
Yeah, that's true. That did happen last week. Yeah, I got my mobile refrigeration license recently because I was like, well, I need to do something to pay the bills. I have equipment. I'm just not licensed. So I have experience. Well, I'm licensed now, but I'm busy trying to do something that isn't that to make money. So we'll see what happens. But actually, that's where I started looking. I was like, well, let me see if I can find a auto AC business to buy, because that would be easier than starting my own. Right? Big tip: don't start a business. Buy a business.
I will file that away.
I think it's tech that makes us think about, well, we have to start it. But even in tech, you can go buy a business. I mean, this is what Acquire is for, after all, right? You can buy a running business with a team that's got a product, something, and then you just bring your vision into it.
Yeah.
How did you determine an acceptable price to play based on multiplier of revenue?
Well, we'll see so because this is not something that's not listed for sale on the market, he doesn't have an asking price. And so my core criteria is that the revenue or the profit the SDE, seller's discretionary earnings, which is basically everything the seller takes home, can pay its loan and still make me happy on how much money I'm getting on the other side of it versus my risk. And other than that, I basically don't care about. I don't care about the price, except I have to be able to get it funded.
Mhm.
And the banks are going to want to make sure that they get funded and I make money in the deal. So there's going to be this three-way negotiation toward final price.
You're going to back into it.
Yeah. And I've been, because this is what we do, I've been in the meantime and using this as a learning experience too for what parts and how these deals work together. I've been building a tool that models out the deals, because there are no tools out there that are publicly exposed that really model out what happens past SDE in a purchase. Banks have them, investors have them. They're all internal tools. They're really bad spreadsheets. There's some public really bad spreadsheets. But understanding like where the money you spend goes, where your tax deductions are. Like if you're buying a $5 million business and you're paying, say, so you're going to put 10% into it for SBA rules. This is max out SBA, right? You put $500,000 into it, so you're paying on a $44.5 million note. You're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in principal and tax and interest. Well, that interest is a tax deduction. The goodwill of your purchase is another tax deduction, because that is depreciation. So all of these actually impact your take home in ways that aren't obvious. And so trying to figure out, plus your rents, because if you're buying from somebody and if they're renting the building back to you because they own it, they were often renting it to a business at a different price, and they will rent it to you because they're going to want it to rent you at fair market value. They rented it to their own business at cost. And that impacts that real earnings number that they're reporting. So there's a lot that goes into that. And so I've been building a tool just to model it out so I can easily compare deals. And we'll see. I mean, like I said, that's probably my biggest option. And I like it because I like the niche that it's in. It's fully managed. Somebody's responsible for every job in the business already. And
interesting.
That's what
Are you planning on selling that tool or open sourcing or sharing it in any way?
I might open source it. I don't know that I want to get into the business of selling it. And I'm a huge proponent of free and open source. I tended to release things in public domain. Screw licensing. So I probably will. We'll see. We'll see. The next stage of it's a P&L modeler, because as I realized I'm going through this process, the loans require me to give P&L projections. Well, that means I can just hand copy some data from out of their, package of their historical stuff and slap it in a spreadsheet and come up with some projections. I can do that, or I can build some software and then I can have 2 or 3 deals and I can have their package, have ChatGPT extract the data and build it back into my JSON that's my input. And now I can actually have, consistency. Because the thing I hate about spreadsheets, as I've come to realize, is that you can't version control them. And you don't really have a good way to have multiple copies using the same consistent inputs. So this let me do that, right? I started with build spreadsheets, and I was like, well, let me do this instead. It's just JavaScript. I mean, it's not complicated. I mean, it's complicated because, financial math, but yeah.
Well, if you do open source it or make it available in some way, I'd love to know more.
Sure, absolutely. So that's kind of what I've been doing in the meantime. And like I said, it was a really good learning tool to understand how all these pieces work, because I've been running businesses since the mid 2000s at some level or the other. My first contracting business was, a couple of years in the mid 2000s. And then we looked at opening a co-location facility that ended up not happening, but had done business plan and financials and a lot of modeling and stuff back then. And then it wasn't until then 2010 we opened a bookstore, and my consulting business came back to life in 2016. So I've kind of been doing this at some level for some variations of it, but I never looked at buying a business before. So that's a new. I never knew how it worked.
Well, good luck. Wish you
Yeah.
the best.
Always something new to learn.
Right. And honestly, that's the best part of anything, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I didn't know that worked that way. That's cool. Yeah.
Right. You know, coming, it's like, okay, great. I'm going to have to learn the car dealer business. I mean, first thing I tell everybody is never bring a customer lead to me before it's closed, because I will destroy the sale. I am not a salesperson.
Yeah.
We can make friends after.
Yes.
That's what I'm hoping is my secret sauce with this business. Is I spent my first decade of my career in sales, and I'm hoping that will all apply in what we're building here.
It's super useful. I mean, just remember that. Keep your product hat on.
Mm-hmm.
Pay attention to that. And the things that you do for someone else are really, really, really hard to do for you and to apply back to you.
David, there was something you wrote, I don't know, 6 weeks ago about, what is it that you offer as a fractional? And you were talking about a website. Somebody had like this paragraph full of things they offered. So they didn't really offer anything.
Right.
I actually really took that to heart when I put together my rudimentary little WordPress website. I said, I get to offer 2 things. I have to really choose carefully. What 2 things am I offering? Let's start there, right?
Yeah.
And that did actually focus me, and it helped me actually weed out some things that came to me that were a maybe, but it wasn't one of those 2 offerings, and I couldn't figure out how to make this thing repeatable. The thing that came to me repeatable it was a one-off, right?
Yep.
If that makes any sense.
Okay for your business to do.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah, there were other reasons why I said no to those.
Yeah.
But it really did focus me in, rather than saying, I can sell that, I can sell that, I can sell that. And I've got this unwieldy platter of things that I'm doing because there's the job part of it.
Yep.
Right. Whereas with 2 offerings that actually are not dissimilar, I'm kind of showing up to the same job every day, regardless of which client I'm working with. And that simplifies things for my little brain.
Yeah. Yeah. The same thing. I came down to 3 things, and they're all the same thing. I ended up with 1 functional offering and 3 scopes around that offering. And then it was always easy to say yes or no because it didn't fit the model.
Yeah.
I didn't have to wait for them to tell me. I would just send it to them. And then they'd come back and say, well, I was really, really hoping that you would write Terraform 40 hours a week. And I'm like, not on my offering. No, I didn't offer that, did I?
Yeah, that actually is one of the things. A potential client I was talking to. So I'm basically doing fractional head of engineering stuff, software engineering. They desperately need a test automation framework, and they were hoping that along with advising them that I would build that for them.
Right. Testery.
I can.
Testery.io.
Say that again?
Testery.io.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. I'll look it up. I mean, I could do that. I have experience doing that, but
here's a team who does that.
Yeah. Let me put that down, actually.
I think it's testery.io. It's a friend of mine's company. Is one of the sales guys hassled me the other day. I'm kind of like, come on, Chris. But sales guys got to sell. I get it. And I did once have some clients that looked at their product. So, but they were, as usual, well, we can build our own stuff. We can, and 5 years later, they still haven't built anything.
That's the problem. Yeah, exactly. I've seen that especially with test automation frameworks. It's like, well, this is the first time any of us have done it. And so then you're going through all the first timer mistakes.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes. And unlike some things, it's not the first time anyone has done it.
That's it. It is a solved problem in the world.
Yes.
So let's just borrow a solution, pay somebody for that. and you shortcut a lot of mistakes, and you go faster.
So do you mind sharing what your two things are?
I don't. They're very similar, actually. Well, so there's okay, they're very similar. One of them is you're a small company and you need somebody to be your head of engineering.
Yep.
So I come in with 30 years of experience and I apply it in your situation. The other one is you're a more established company and you have people in place, but you need them to level up for the next phase. And so I come in and I offer coaching, advisory services. I'll even roll up my sleeves and do some data analysis, stuff like that.
So taking them from a size of 10 to a size of 50, but not having to lose their management along the way, or 50 to 500. And again, helping those people take those steps because it's a big step.
That's it. That's exactly it. So there's actually a kind of a third one that's emerged out of that as I've encountered a little bit of resistance here and there. It's like, what would happen if we just have a 1-month engagement where I just come in and assess your current state and talk about what could be.
Perfect.
And then at the end of the month, if it doesn't feel good for either of us, we just,
right. They've got the conversations and potentially the things that you wrote. If you write, not a requirement for everyone to remember. It's not always a requirement for you to have deliverables. Yeah.
So that's what I came up with, and that has really focused things, because there've been things that in the startup phase that I'm in, I might say yes to because it generates cash flow.
Right.
Do I want my business to be built around that? Not really. So
and you're not marketing you're not advertising and marketing those things, which is expensive, right? It's time and expense. However you're doing it, you're talking about it, you're writing about it, you're showing it, you're going to meetups, whatever it is that you're doing to get yourself out there.
Yeah.
You just talk about those two things, it's great. If they say, well, you're a head of engineering, well, obviously you can build a testing framework for us, right? And you say, I'm hungry. Sure, I'll do it.
Yeah, exactly. It is. But I want to get to a place where I don't have to do that. Because honestly, at the rate that you're paying me, you could pay somebody a lot less and get something just as good. But sometimes it's just about, you're just a trusted person, and it's worth it to us to pay your rate just to not have to worry about it. So, okay.
So where are you finding leads?
Through my network, first degree and second degree.
Okay.
At this time, and to your point earlier, I know darn well that will not last forever, right? But at this point, I'm just trying to get established such that I have clients and they're paying me.
Yes.
And I'm worrying about how to get beyond the second degree of my network later.
And you're getting testimonials from these clients?
Yes.
Yes. You don't have to wait till an engagement ends to get a testimonial.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to ask them for a testimonial to get a testimonial. Jonathan Stark and Rochelle Matan both have frameworks for getting testimonials without asking for a testimonial, right?
Oh.
So you use feedback. You're asking for feedback instead.
Right.
And it's great. Like, I love to do that. Like, month 1, boom, here. How are we working together?
Mm-hmm.
What surprised you, right? And now I've got a testimonial from that.
Yeah. That's really terrific. Because I've been asked to provide testimonials to consultants I've used, and then I'm like, well, what do I even say, right? So
the other really superpower tool is get ChatGPT, especially if you had a conversation with this person that you've got recorded. Well, actually, get Claude to do this. Claude's way better at it, but
yeah, Claude is better at that.
Have it extract things that was said in the conversation and make up some testimonials. And then you can offer them 3, have it generate 20 or 10 or something, and then you pick 3 of them and then send them over and say, hey, just in case, here are 3 that you might want to use. I've never had anybody say, oh my God, what are you doing? Right? It's like, no, these are just some words. And if you say these are great, saves everybody time.
That also works for book blurbs. I was asked to be an early reader of a book, and then I had literally a 15-minute Zoom with the author who recorded it, and then she sent me 3 blurbs. Pick the one you like the best, and it was like, are you kidding? Heck yeah! I spent an hour trying to figure out what I would say. Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah, And it's already aligned with the message she wants it to have.
Yeah, and it is aligned to the things I actually said, so it's a nice marriage of the two.
Perfect.
So
My PI in Washington State, it's illegal to record anybody.
Oh.
Do you have a PI license?
Oh yeah, I'm a PI agent.
Even if you tell them?
You have to do certain things. They have to know they're being recorded and they have to acknowledge it. So if I was interviewing something for fire investigation, I'd start off with, hey, do you know this device records? Are you okay with me recording it? And at the end of the interview, I would say, all right, let's review. We've been talking, you've been recorded and this device recorded. Are you aware of that? And you get that on audio tape. Then it was completely legit. But this era of people on Zoom now, with Zoom, you have to acknowledge that it's being recorded.
Yeah,
and that may be enough.
A lot of it should meet your requirements. If you're using Zoom's inbuilt recording, it has auto, and then depending on for like third-party robot recorders, like I use Fireflies and Fathom, they both have settings that either make it more or less obvious depending on your own regulation, because there are some states that don't require it for either party. There are some states require it for one party. There's, but
now, I think I think you can skirt it by saying you're just doing a summary. For example, I don't want there's so much stuff discussed at my meetings with the two PhDs, but I did not want them thinking I was.
Here we go again. Poor guy.
One of us meeting, but I certainly would like it.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. This was terrific.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it.
Thanks for doing these, David.
I'm glad you found them useful, and I'm glad you found some of the stuff I wrote useful too. So.
Yes, very much so.
It'll stay up it cost me a domain name, so.
Okay, terrific.
A domain name I'm not getting rid of.
Right. Who knows? You'll do this again someday.
Right. I might pivot it, but I'll keep the content around and accessible. So
perfect.
Cool.
When I was giving a presentation, I got an email from Otter that it started up and tried to do one. I didn't set anything I'm trying to find if I even have Otter enabled anywhere, but it said that the host stopped it. It's like, I don't remember. I mean, I was busy giving a 1-minute presentation. I didn't start anything.
It was someone else in the meeting that had Otter join.
Yes, but why would I get an email on my?
Because you were a participant, and it will send it. One of the settings is that it can email for many of these. Is it will email all participants.
Okay, so there was one that came in, and John said, "Oh, there's a robot that came in. I don't like that." And that person said, "Oh, I'm sorry," and stopped it.
Yeah,
that may be what it was.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people, they turn on the auto joins and they don't pay any attention to the fact that it's going to join literally everything on your calendar, and that has an event that it can join. And so I turn off auto join, and I set up very specific rules. So all of my Calendly events create a event that has a specific structure, and I have a rule in Fireflies that only auto joins for those specific structures.
Okay.
And so then, as long as the event, and it's a little generic, but I mean, it just says Brass Tack LLC. If it says Brass Tack LLC in the event, it will join, which means that went through one of my Calendlys because they all set it up with that same event name. It'll be, it's like one of the things I found is, again, people don't put any effort into how they set up Calendly or their other tools like that and how they set up the events. And so I might have a calendar event on my calendar that just says meeting with David. Is you David or is me David? Because it will tell them they're having a meeting with David. Great. How about which David? There's a lot of Davids out there. In fact, there's 2 David Raistricks that I know of because we're both in Florida now. And but spend a little bit of time investing in this and how you set these things up, especially when you start using them for your business. But Firefly's auto join rules, I think they all have some level of configuration. Pay attention to it. Make sure you set them up so that they're recording the things you want and that you expect.
So Fireflies, when I see isn't Firefly a web browser or is Firefly a specific?
You're thinking Firefox.
Oh yes, I was confused.
Fireflies with the S.ai is that's the one that I'm using to do the transcriptions on these calls. It's joined right now.
I see that.
I don't use it for video. I just use it for the transcription.
Right.
And mostly because of its auto join rules. And that it automatically joins. It has stopped automatically joining this meeting, which is frustrating because it's supposed to join if you invite they have an email address, fred@fireflies.ai, that if you invite that
Got it.
meeting, it should join, or to that attendee, it will join those. So it joins anything with Fred. So in this one, I added Fred the invite, my invite on my calendar, and it's supposed to join. And then it did for like the first 12, and then it stopped. But I also record the whole thing with Zoom for publishing, right? Because then I've got audio, video, and everything else. Zoom's transcript was not very good. And I use Fireflies Live because it does good speaker association. So I know what Chris said, and I know what Noel said, and I know what I said, and I know I don't have to go in and fix speaker associations.
Okay, that's key stuff, because if I, in an hour meeting with two PhDs, there's so much information, and it actually gets a lot of information out of me, but they have note takers. I don't ever get to see that.
Yeah. And I have Fireflies set up that I don't do this with Fathom, but I do it with Fireflies. Or actually, no, I think I have Fathom set up too, because I use Fathom differently. I use it to I'll trigger a recording, and it's useful on lead calls and stuff because the way you can set up some rules in the desktop interface, but it doesn't work at all if I'm out away from my computer. It won't auto join. So I can click it and I can say, they're talking about this thing. I can do this. And so the meeting highlights part will pull out a section where they talked about it. So it's very useful. I haven't been doing lead calls lately, so it's not been as used as much.
Have you ever tried using Motions, the tool Motion that does some of what Fireflies does?
No, I haven't. I mean, there's tons of tools doing this now, so no, I haven't.
I'm trying to compare those two. Later this week, I turned it on last week, and I had some issues that I need to fix. But it's interesting. The Motion actually does store the video and the summary, and separately has an AI bot that gives you feedback, executive coaching feedback on your meetings.
Interesting. Yeah, Fathom has video, and you get video, audio, and transcript, and the summary stuff. Fireflies, they added video support. I don't pay for that tier. I don't really care. I don't really care for it at that level. If I need video, I'm going to record it because I'm going to get better. It's still recording with Zoom is still a pain in the butt. I'll tell you that. It's as simple as pushing a button, but no, it's not. not if you want to republish it. Let me just say, if you look at the first 4, 5, 6 episodes that have been published, you see a variation in quality because that's me figuring out how to get this thing to record sanely.
And you're pushing them out to YouTube, right?
Pushing them out to YouTube, yeah. And then there's also a Spotify and Apple playlist for those. For the Apple doesn't do video, but Spotify has a video and audio side to theirs. But yeah, those are the 3 places they publish. But
I have a YouTube. I got 2 YouTube channels. One, Smokeless Chimney, and that's part of my grant. They wanted me to document or educate, write papers, and I said, "Well, can I do videos?" So I did about 125 videos of either making the parts, or programming it, or testing out the parts, or the fire test like this. This is a 4-hour test, and everything's working great. I'm just getting ready for my meeting on a week from Wednesday, which is going to be, I think, the last meeting before they start writing up the peer review paper, which I'm not going to get to. I might get to review it, but I don't get to edit it.
Right. The other thing I wanted to mention on Fireflies before I forget is that Fireflies has an upload audio. You upload video or upload video and audio. And so if I have a recording and it failed to transcribe, I can upload that recording back into Fireflies, get it to transcribe. Then I can go through in the voice sections that it's done speaker allocation and fix them and reassign them properly. So then I get a speaker transcript with speaker allocation. And it's also useful to and it's a really good transcriber. It won't do the worst of the worst calls, but some noisy calls that, like Apple's own voice transcription on the phones and stuff like that, it doesn't do very well. Our Fireflies will do a really good job, even with noisy, messy transcriptions, of getting something out of them. So that's the other part that I will just probably keep paying them for forever because that's too useful. No product placement. I pay.
Well, I got there's a company that wants me to measure smoke called Platypus Systems, and last I heard they were going to talk to their principals, and then on Sunday I get an email, or not, I get a LinkedIn request to join their group. I'm not sure what the signals are from them.
Right.
Because, whenever you go talk to your principals, I'm sure they said, no, we don't need that yet. That's typical what I expect from principals. Any misspelled principals. So I'm like, because they're your pals. They're not, I've worked with principals before. And so I'm just kind of sitting waiting for them, because all they have for their trigger for their system, this is for wildfire prevention, sprinklers that would go on around the perimeter of the house to keep the house from burning down. These are fairly large properties. These are $30,000 to $60,000 systems, and they have one temperature sensor to trigger it. I can make it better.
Yeah. Right.
And so, those definitely be consulting rates, and they would definitely be using some of my technology. But I've in my mind, I've developed a system that would layer up, escalate up the chain way before a temperature sensor would. So it has a text message communication with the homeowner. So you could just text the thing and it would turn on. But text them, smoke particles are large. In my opinion, if a fire is approaching you, the smoke particles are going to be large, and I know how to measure smoke particles.
Yep.
The other thing would
But
be
I mean, like,
CO2.
But are you going to see like finger size ash at that stage, or are you good? Or
you might. Oh, yes, you might. You might see embers.
I mean, I know that a human on site would, but would you be able to measure up that large, or are you still just looking at?
Oh, okay.
Hit 100% opacity.
Okay. So this is what's called a PMS 5003. It's a little device. PM10, PM 2.5, and PM1. Now, PM10 is everything under, so it includes PM 2.5, and PM1. Now, you look at the ratios between these three particle sizes, and if you're getting a higher ratio of PM10, then you probably have a fire approaching. If the fire is in Canada and the wind's blowing in, your PM10 ratio to PM2 ratio is going to be pretty small. If it's a mile away and the wind's blowing towards you, you're going to be reading significantly large particles. The other thing you're going to be reading is carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide.
Right.
Those are going to be off the charts. So I can make them a system that looks at whether a fire is approaching or receding. You're not, if the wind's behind you and driving the fire away, you're not going to have large particles. You're not going to have elevated CO2. You're not going to have elevated CO. And so, it appears rather safe.
Multiple pieces of data.
It might be really hot that day, but so it might, set the sensor off. But there we have two other indicators that say it's not present. The other thing I can do is set up what's called an infrared matrix. So it's like an eye that sits out there that can look for things like embers flying in the air. I mean, this is the type I make prototypes. I make things work.
Right.
This will all be somewhat straightforward for me to do.
What you need to do is turn this into a fractional role where you are doing consulting and advising for companies that are building product in this space, and you help them make them better, right?
Well, I'm thinking that's a good idea, and I could put that on my website, that I offer those services. Because I think,
And then go
I
find those companies and just network with them. You don't have to sell; just talk to them and say, "This is my expert space. I want to talk about the space." Right?
I worked to fire a grassland fire, and this one house, I was working for a large insurance company, and this one house had these rainbird sprinklers that were designed to. They were supposed to come on in a wildfire event. Like, the grass fires run really fast.
Yeah.
I mean, they're wind blown. They're very short duration, but they took out a lot of houses because it just came racing over this hill. But these rainbird sprinklers were supposed to activate and how do you say it? Suppress that fire. No way. I think the fire was too big for the system the way it was designed. Yeah, I'm thinking of doing that because my knowledge of smoke is
And
better
remember,
than average.
also can have clients who are property and homeowners. You don't have to go work for Rainbird. You don't have to go work for Platypus, right? People who have multi-million-dollar homes that want to protect them, you can spend that money with you too.
They could, yeah. So, I guess the approach would be to put a block on my website that just basically says I do consulting in flame front awareness.
Get it into something your users recognize.
Prevent your house from burning down in a wildfire.
There you go. Worried about your house burning down in a wildfire? I can help you make sure that your systems are in place to do what we can to prevent it, because we know this is not, you're not guaranteeing prevention, but
Yeah, and
you can look at the Rainbird and go, well, I mean, you're only putting out 10,000 gallons in the entire freaking thing you've got. Well, there's no way you're going to saturate this property in this house enough, right? You need.
Well, there's all kinds of problems because a typical house like mine lose power. You can't pump any water.
Right. That's why you gravity feed on these systems, right? See, you know these things. Get out there and talk about them. Also, talk about them.
Okay. Well, I like your encouragement. That's yeah. I gotta do something.
You've got a niche. You just got to figure out how to monetize it.
That's been my life story.
But I think you have buyers out there that are waiting to have conversations with you or get you involved in their property planning. You've got to figure out how to go find them.
Okay. Yeah, I think I've given these guys enough rope and they haven't done anything. I feel comfortable moving away or moving off and trying to collect more clients that do that type of stuff. So I think it's okay to put it on my website, and because part of me says that you start talking to someone, you keep it confidential until they bite. Well, if it doesn't look like they're going to bite, you take a step back and move to the left.
Yep. Yep.
All right. It was a great series of meetings you had. Send me a photo from your new car dealership if you ever get it.
I will absolutely do that. Yes.
Okay.
When we change hands, when the keys change hands, there's going to be some serious photo op.
Okay. I will catch you. Nice to see you again, Chris.
Thanks, Noel. Anything else, Chris?
Thanks, everyone.
No. Good.
Well, all right. Well, I guess that is a wrap. Realized that there were still some people here that didn't have the cameras on.
Actually, as we were going over.
Somebody else had a Fireflies join. Oh, that's funny. Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. That's fine. It's going to get published anyway.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, and good luck with your, endeavor, and reach out if you need any,
Will do. Yeah. I'll I can line this up. Pin this down so I can move on to the next episode.
Perfect.
Cool.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for all the. Bye.